I was incredibly lucky to be at the right time at the right place. Sometimes it's women helping women and asking the right questions at the right time. I think I can give a business spin to running a charity. We are never in doubt of what we want to do with the company. Who are we trying to serve? What are we passionate about? And how do we get there? Center for Creative Learning is a very important part of our work because it builds community. It gives back to the community and to society. It gives skill sets to young people. At the end of the day, it has to align with the organization, with the family, and the values that they have. I mean, how do you measure the quality of life? How do you measure the quality of good conversations and inspiration? No matter what side of the desk you sit at, it has to be something that's, you spend your career and your wealth, your time on something you feel resonates with you and that is aligned with your values.
Welcome to the Lighthouse Canton Ideas Insights podcast. I'm Stella Lau from Lighthouse Canton, and this is Beyond Inheritance, our mini-series on women, finance, family, and legacy. Today's conversation takes us into cultural philanthropy and what it teaches us about stewarding wealth. Our guest is Charlotte Norris, Managing Director of Singapore Repertory Theatre, one of Asia's leading English language theatre companies. Founded in 1993, SRT tells unforgettable stories with skill and style. They produce the beloved Shakespeare in the Park, are one of Southeast Asia's biggest producers of children's theatre through the little company reaching 70,000 children and families annually, and run a center for creative learning, delivering vital lifelong skills to the community. Over 2 decades, Charlotte has transformed SRT into a financially resilient nonprofit with $8.4 million in annual operations, balancing earned income, government support, and philanthropic partnerships to ensure sustainability while maintaining artistic excellence. Her journey from entrepreneur to cultural institution builder offers powerful lessons about resilience and long-term value creation for family offices and wealth stewards. Charlotte, welcome to Beyond Inheritance.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Your path to theatre wasn't conventional, and I think many of our listeners who have navigated pivots and risk will relate. You came to Singapore from Denmark as a tech entrepreneur. Tell us a story. What happened? How did it lead you to SRT, and what were those early years like building the company?
I was incredibly lucky to be at the right time at the right place. I came to Singapore to set up an internet company like many others did in 2000. We had EDB funding, we had great ideas, and probably too many great ideas. So after 6 months, I had to close it down. We were simply not ready, and we didn't understand the market. In that time, I had met a wonderful woman, very well connected, who served on the board of SRT, and asked her for coffee because I didn't know many people, and I'm like, not quite ready to go home. And she asked the right questions. So sometimes it's women helping women and asking the right questions at the right time. So she's like, do you want to stay in tech, or do you want to go back to your roots, which was in theatre, because I worked in theatre in Denmark before. So I said, well, I think I was happier. I was more fulfilled. I felt I spent my time better when I was in the arts and not in tech. And she introduced me to my business partner, Gaurav Kripalani, who's our artistic director. So that's almost 25 years ago. So I had to force him to take the chance on me. Obviously, coming from Denmark, I had experience, less so network, but said, I think I can give a business spin to running a charity. And I think that's what got me the job. And the rest is history. So almost 25 years, we run the company together.
Okay, interesting. So you've been at SRT for over 20 years now, and the transformation has been remarkable. You said SRT thinks and functions like a business despite being a charity. What does that business mindset actually look like in practice? And I'm particularly interested in this because it mirrors what our listeners face. Family offices constantly balancing financial returns with family values and legacy impact. How do you navigate the tension between financial discipline and artistic integrity?
I think the leadership is very important. And Gaurav is the artistic director. I'm the managing director. We are never in doubt of what we want to do with the company. Who are we trying to serve? What are we passionate about? And how do we get there? I think you can easily think a little bit in terms of business, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I can pay our bills, pay our staff on time, and pay a fair wage. Because you don't have to be poor and starving to work in the arts. And I think that has been very, very important. At least 25 years ago, when we ran the company at that time, we took one show at a time. And what do we want to do next time? And once you have the responsibility of, well, now we have 30 full-time staff. We employ over 300 freelancers a year. You have to make sure there is a plan. You have to make sure, again, you can pay your bills on time. At the end of the day, we are run by the passion for the stories that we tell. Without that, none of us would have lasted this long. So it's definitely about the passion for the work. And again, it always comes back to how do we fund what we would like to do and who do we want to serve. So the way that we run the company, and yes, we are a charity with ABC status, we definitely look at different revenue streams, because I think we have to. And certainly when we had to run the company during the pandemic, it was evident that that strategy was the right one. So having in a season, we try to balance shows that we know hopefully can be commercially viable with the artistic cultural pearls. So we try and have different types of theater in our season. Center for Creative Learning is a very important part of our work because it builds community. It gives back to the community and to society. It gives skill sets to young people. The schools in Singapore are absolutely amazing. The academic level is very high. What we do is giving those 21st century skills a boost, and that's all about confidence, about storytelling, about the ability to stand on a stage or having a conversation. So it's a very interesting time where we work both in classroom and on stage with companies, and trying to see how we can have different revenue streams. The pandemic was probably the hardest, but also the easiest time to run the company, because I had one purpose, right? Make sure you take care of your team. That was the key stakeholder, and it still is, but it's just a lot more stakeholders now that are pulling in different directions. But again, let's think about how we got through the pandemic and a little bit around the arts and the value of the arts in society, and especially right now. During the pandemic, we read books, we watched movies, we listened to music. It's all back to the arts and what it means to be human. And that's the business we're in.
Nice. The balance between business discipline and artistic ambition, it sounds like it requires multiple strategies working together. Family offices think a lot about diversification, not putting all eggs in one basket, as I said. You have applied similar thinking in SRT with diverse revenue streams, different giving programs, multiple audiences, and walk us through that strategy. How do you balance dependence on any single funding source, and what has that diversification enabled you to do?
So again, I think the partnership between our artistic director and our team, it really is a team effort. It is about the good stories we want to tell. It is about the productions that we want to do. But over the years, we've also refined the business model. We know what pays our salary. We know what we're passionate about and how to balance that. So I think experience, never being shy of taking a risk. We have an amazing board who has supported, and some of the decisions that we have taken over the years in terms of the artistic output has been risky. But we have had a board that supported it. We've also built enough financial ability to take risk. And again, as an example, one of the shows that we have coming up now is a partnership. We have invested as co-producers with Royal Shakespeare Company and the Roald Dahl Estate to do the BFG. And that is a 10-year investment, because eventually it will transfer to London West End and Broadway. And the board was like, we understand that this year, financially it won't work, but we understand the longevity of the show. We understand the branding. We understand flying the Singapore flag. outside Singapore. So it's part of a bigger strategy. So as long as there is a good conversation around everything we do, both internally, the team is behind us, and we have the alignment of the board and our stakeholders. We have a very close partnership with the National Arts Council. And I think, again, having more of a business sense without compromising on the artistic integrity is important. And hopefully that has been one of the things that we brought to the industry in Singapore, shown that, yes, you can do many different things and you have to do many different things, because all eggs in one basket is very, very dangerous for any company, whether you are a charity or whether you're a commercial entity. But at the same time, back to the good story, back to serving the story and the communities that we try to serve.
It sounds like having that very supportive board is essential.
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned donors or philanthropic donors support as part of that mix. Let's zoom out to the broader landscape. Now, Singapore has become a major wealth hub with over 2,000 family offices, yet historically less than 1% of the philanthropic dollars goes to the arts. From your vantage point, working with the donors for over 2 decades, what's the cultural philanthropy landscape like here?
Yes, why is that?
Yeah, why is that so?
One of the things that came out of the pandemic was actually, there was a Straits Times article that sort of said, well, the arts, or people working in the arts, is non-essentials. And I loved that because it really gave very rich and very passionate conversations in the industry and around the industry about the role of the arts in a society. Having grown up in Denmark, where normal working class family, but my family always made sure that we had an annual subscription to the theater, because it mattered how we had experiences together. It mattered what we did as a family, and it mattered the conversations we would always have after a performance. And that's what we're trying to do. So I think Singapore is also maturing in terms of understanding the value of the art. Even last year, the government set aside 300 million for Culture Pass to give every Singaporean the opportunity to go and see art, be part of an art experience where it's funded by the government. That is incredible. And what a signal to send to philanthropists and the corporate sector. We believe in the power of the arts to create community, to come together across divides, and to just be a great place to live and work and play. It's inspiring. I mean, and to me, it's always been different. I love going to the cinema, but going to the theater has always had that extra spin of the live experience. And that, I think, we have come so far. So I do hope to see more philanthropists supporting the arts. I am absolutely, I acknowledge that education, the environment, or any other very worthy areas that needs philanthropic support, but hopefully more people begin to see the arts as a vital, not a nice to have, but a needs to have in a society like Singapore. So I'm hopeful, but I think we need a couple of organizations to step up and do a meaningful philanthropic giving to the arts, and let us together work how we show impact, how we show meaning. There are amazing companies. I mean, we're working with some fantastic companies like Bloomberg Philanthropies, but we need more both from the corporate and the family officers to hopefully join us on this journey.
Right.
So I think at the end of the day, engagement with the arts is based on interest. It's based on, did you have a great experience with your family last time you came to the theater? So I think there is definitely the interest, but again, if you give to environment or education, it's also because you see the value. You see that is aligned with your own personal values. I hope that organizations and family offices will look at different tiers of giving and different areas of giving. I don't mind to get a no from a donor as long as they say, no, we don't give to the arts, but we give to. So I think, again, at the end of the day, it has to align with the organization, with the family, and the values that they have. And just being clear around that. And also, I think something that goes beyond one person, but people can see for generations, this is what we want to stand for. And some want to stand for 4 different things, fantastic. And some say, just want to go big on one thing. And hopefully some will say, and that's the arts.
Right. Now, you mentioned that the landscape is shifting. Let's talk about how that plays out in practice. Now, many family offices struggle with measuring impact beyond financial returns, especially in areas like cultural giving, where the ROI isn't as straightforward as dollars and cents. So how do you measure success at SRT? Like, what metrics matter beyond ticket sales?
I mean, for us, it's incredibly hard. I mean, how do you measure the quality of life? How do you measure the quality of good conversations and inspiration? It's incredibly hard. So, of course, the baseline metrics will always be how many people have we served. It's a little bit easier for us with Center for Creative Learning, where it's the education programs. We will always go in and do a baseline. Let's say if we work with children, we talk to the children themselves, we talk to the parents, we talk to the teachers. And maybe I could just tell a story that sort of highlights that point. We did a program in a boys' school. I walked into the room and welcomed 40 kids in a very warm classroom with lots of teenage kids that wouldn't sit still. But in the corner, there's always that one boy who sits and doesn't engage. And you could see he was probably not from the most well-funded home environment. And 8 weeks later, when I came back, he was the boy who came over to me and said, "Hello, Miss Charlotte. Today we will do a Hans Christian Andersen story because we know you're from Denmark." And that is the impact. How do you measure that? How do you measure that he's gone from absolute zero in confidence to being a rock star? So we see it. We instinctively know it works. It's harder to make the argument in tables and graphs and Excel sheets. So I think, again, for the arts, it has to be felt, it has to be experienced. So we always try and take that journey with our donors. Come to the classroom, join us for shows, have conversations with people after, but we have to also try and find metrics for the arts that make sense. I would love to make that argument.
Very sensory metrics.
It is. But at the end of the day, it is a personal journey. So I think there are two different types of donors, or at least for our organizations. There are those who understand the value of the work we do in the classroom. It's still education, but it's the softer skill.
Right.
And that is a little bit more measurable over time. Those who give to the arts is because they believe in the power of the arts. And again, just back to the story about the pandemic, just remember what we did and why it's important.
Absolutely. Now, younger philanthropies in Asia are approaching giving very differently than their parents. They're more strategic, more impact-focused, and more hands-on. Now, you work with multi-generational donors. What are you seeing in how next-generation philanthropies engage with cultural organizations differently?
I think they're much more professional. They are definitely a lot sharper in what they want to see. I also think there's probably a little bit more of a partnership. I think there are more conversations, understanding each other. Even yesterday, we went to one of the family offices that we work with. We took some of the beneficiaries. We had a tea party to say, look, we do reports, we do all the numbers, but let's have a conversation with the people that benefit from your donation.
Right.
So that was amazing. I'm not sure necessarily that would have happened 20 years ago. So I think the partnership is probably richer and more led by conversations and understanding each other, as opposed to give because it looks good on my stationery or whatever. So I think it's interesting. We're still immature in many, many ways, but I think it definitely is changing. There are some amazing organizations as well in this space, like NVPC is doing a lot of great work to also mature the industry of giving. We have Impact SG, that's matchmaking between givers and beneficiaries. So there are so many organizations that are doing great work in helping not just the charities to get the funding so we can do the work that we do, but really also helping givers to be strategic and get the right match.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the tea party was very clever.
And it was fun. It was just, again, it was with the heart, because there was disabled young artists. And again, their stories, you can't put that.
And they get to engage, right?
Exactly.
That's great. Now, that shift from transactional to transformational giving connects directly to what we want to explore next, legacy. Right? Let's talk about legacy. You built something remarkable in SRT for over 20 years now. Now, many of our listeners think about wealth that will outlast them, institutions that carry values forward, impact that transcends their lifetime. Now, how do you think about legacy in your role?
Well, I do want to say it's always been a team effort, and we have the best team in Seattle. So no, I don't think I can take the honor for that. I don't think so much about legacy. I just want to make sure that I leave Singapore eventually, and I leave SRT much better than when I came. And I guess that's the thinking that both companies and family offices have. So I do think a lot about how I give back and how I create opportunities for young women, especially because I can see that there is so much in the old boys network. And, I didn't grow up here. I don't have an old boys or an old girls network. I guess you don't have that. So I think being part of networks where we give time and where we try and give opportunities within the arts. So we do a lot of internships on the lower level. We do residencies that I created around a woman who came up to me 15 years ago and said, I want to work in the arts. I don't know how to do it. And I'm like, I think we can do something here. So now we have 6-7 residents every year that gets 2 years of salary to just come and learn. And that is planting seeds, not just for us, for the industry. I mean, we are nothing if we are not part of an ecosystem of the arts. I do want to leave SRT eventually with money in the bank to be able to carry out our missions.
So that's part of succession planning as well.
Absolutely.
Now, you build this institution, these traditions, these programs, and you're also very intentional about what comes next. You have committed to sending the lead back down. You mentioned just now, right, about mentoring next generation female leaders. And you've been candid about women supporting women, like men are insanely good at using their old boys network, but women do not do the same for each other. What have you learned about building sisterhood over the past 20 over years, especially in fundraising relationships?
I'm not sure we have that within the fundraising environment, to be honest. But I think privately and in my professional capacity, I've certainly tried to build those circles of support and being part of various mentorship programs. I think at the end of the day, the best that I can do to give back is to make sure that the people who are in our employment is well taken care of, and that we plant their seeds no matter how long their journey is with SRT, but they leave with new tools, becoming more employable in different ways. And I think that's probably, again, the best that I can do. But I do mentorships and participate in various programs. Within philanthropy per se and fundraising, I don't think we actually don't have many circles of fundraiser. There has been a little bit of a stigma around fundraiser. I am never shy about asking for money for the arts and for SRT. That's my job, right. And because I'm passionate about it and because I feel it's a good place to support and give back. But not everyone are comfortable with that, and then they shouldn't be in the fundraising space. But to me, it's not about begging for money. It's about matching values, about matching journeys and being able to, again, make the world a little bit better. It sounds corny, but I do think that's what it's about.
That's very genuine. Okay, now that's incredibly valuable insight. Now let's get tactical for our listeners. Now, if someone listening to this is running a family office and thinking, I want to incorporate cultural philanthropy into our strategy, what's your advice? Where do they start?
I think get engaged. I mean, I don't think anyone will give to an organization they don't know. I don't think anyone will give to an organization where they haven't met the leadership and where they trust the leadership. So I think reach out, have coffees, go and see our work, because again, it has to be aligned with, if you see a company and you really don't like the productions they do, it will never be a solid partnership. So again, start with the conversations and get to know us. every partnership that we have been different, have started differently. Sometimes it's an introduction from a board member who brings guests to see our shows and we have a conversation. Quite often we have actually had daughters of philanthropists intern with us. And that has started our journey because they have really come home and said, this is so amazing. We love this organization. Dad and mom, can we support? So no relationship starts in the same way. At the end of the day, the trust has to be built, and the donor has to be comfortable with leadership, with direction, with the work that we do. But I do love to take our donors, not just to the shows. I mean, we're lucky in the way that we have shows that we can entertain. We can invite people to our productions so they understand what we do. But I also really like to take them into the classroom and to see the work that we do in the community. So they see the different sides of SRT. SRT is known for big shows like Shakespeare in the Park and the LKY musical and, big productions. But some of the magic also happens when you stand at the back of the theater and you see a children's show. And every time we do a performance, there's always one kid that's never been to the theater before. And just hearing them, and their immediate reaction is fantastic. So it's those little moments and those connections, I think, makes such a big difference.
Yeah, but I just thought that, the part about, because you're so right, we dealt with a lot of family offices, and when they talk philanthropy, art just doesn't come to them. They will think education, they will think of, helping the poor. How do we make it more apparent to them? Or, what is the way for them to think that art could be, a cause?
It's the question we discuss every single day.
Okay, but I presume there's no answer
But it
yet.
is super hard. But again, as I said, with the government saying the arts is important, right? And now we're doing the culture pass. They also implemented in 2015 giving matching, dollar for dollar matching for givers. So I do
for
think
arts, right?
Even for arts, it's been a regulation that has been in place for the education sector for a very long time. But the fact that the government say, no, we will invest in the arts because it is important for many reasons. I think in the society we live, that gives a blue stamp. Oh, it's okay to give.
Is there a chance that this will backfire? Like people thinking that now that the government is supported, you guys would be well funded and no need for donors?
I don't think so, but of course that question has of course come up. I don't think the arts ever was meant to be. Let's look back hundreds of years. It was kings and wealthy individuals. In Denmark, Carlsberg, the brewery funded a huge part of the cultural scene in Denmark decades ago. So I think that's that understanding that the arts is not a commercial entity. It's part of society, and it will probably always need some sort of financial support. It doesn't mean that we can't do some productions that are commercially viable. Again, that's part of our strategy. Got to make sure I can pay our salaries on time.
Of course. Now, Charlotte, this has been such a rich conversation. I think many of our listeners will be surprised by how much overlap there is between managing a theatre company and stewarding family wealth. The long-term thinking, the balancing of values and returns, the succession planning challenges, and the stakeholder complexity. That's also something really powerful about the parallel between what you do and our listeners do. You're stewarding a cultural institution while they're stewarding family wealth. But at a core, it's the same question. How do we build something meaningful that lasts? What do you hope people take away from your story?
I guess at the end of the day, no matter what side of the desk you sit at, it has to be something that's, you spend your career and your wealth, your time on something you feel resonates with you and that is aligned with your values.
Right.
As simple as that, I think.
Charlotte, this has been such insightful conversation. Thank you for joining us on Beyond Inheritance and sharing your insights on legacy and stewardship. We hope to have you back again.
Thank you for having me. Loved our talk.
To our subscribers, thank you for joining us. Charlotte's story reminds us that legacy isn't just about what we build, it's about who we invest in to carry it forward. Whether stewarding of cultural institution or family wealth, the principles are the same. Long-term thinking, values alignment, investing in people, and the courage to build something that outlasts us. Join us next time on Beyond Inheritance, where we'll continue exploring women's perspective on finance, family, and legacy.
Thank you for listening in to the Lighthouse Canton Ideas podcast. We hope you found this conversation insightful. Please subscribe and tune in for more episodes. This podcast has been prepared by Lighthouse Canton Private Limited and its affiliates for informational purposes only. There is nothing contained in this podcast that constitutes advisory services. This podcast shall in no circumstances constitute or be considered as advice to invest in any specific investment or investment class, vehicle, or financial instrument. The information contained in this podcast shall not be considered as legal, tax, financial, or other advice. You should consult a professional to obtain specific advice regarding the financial, legal, regulatory, tax, and other regulations applicable to you. You should consult a financial advisor authorized in your jurisdiction before making any investment decision to ensure that you fully understand the products and the potential risks involved.